Hey everyone, what's up? And welcome to episode 26 of Joe and Matty Talk New York Sports. And today it's just going to be me praising the King. And if you're not a Rangers fan, you might not be as interested with this video, but today's the big day that we've been waiting for a while. And especially if you've been a really close fan of the Rangers and watched them really closely for the past 15, 20 years, you really love Henrik Lundqvist. And today's his day, and they are going to play the Minnesota Wild at 8 o'clock tonight at home, coming off what was frankly a terrible loss yesterday to Columbus, but you got to have a quick memory and forget about it. And Shesterkin will be in net, and Matt Zuccarello comes home to be a part of that ceremony with his best friend, Henrik Lundqvist. And this is just going to be an episode praising Henrik, and then hopefully me and Joe get behind the camera for an episode early before Sunday, before the football games, and give you our predictions for those, which should be pretty good playoff games. But to start, I've been a huge Rangers fan my whole life, but I've really watched them closely and went to a different level with my fandom for them, I would say, in the 2017-18 season. So I got 3 seasons to watch Henrik Lundqvist, and arguably the best goalie in the Rangers franchise history, and to me, top 10 in NHL history. And he was outstanding. He put his heart out there every day, and you heard that from some of the leaders of the Rangers if you follow them on Instagram, giving a little tribute video. And we're gonna go over his years as a Ranger and just kind of look at his stats, as today his number will be retired into the rafters at Madison Square Garden. And so we're going to start by looking at some of his stats. I mean, he is so gifted, and he's only won the Vezina Trophy one time, and that was, I do not know what year that was. But to start, his career started with the Rangers in 2005. 2006 was a surprise draft pick, and he played 53 games. That was it was amazing for him. And he won 30 games in his rookie year in 53 games. Played, he won 30 games, and that's pretty amazing. And let's see, then in 06-07 he played 70 games and won 37. And so not as impressive as his rookie year, but we're going somewhere with this, and the Rangers have something to be happy about. 72 games the next year, 37 wins again, saying consistent, and that's what the Rangers wanted in a goalie, to hopefully make some form of a Stanley Cup run in the coming years. And in 07-08, we just went over that one. In 08-09, he played 70 games, won 38. And then in 2009-2010, played 73 games and won 35. And then 2010-2011, played 68 games, won 36. That's pretty good. And then the big one in 2011-2012, Henrik Lundqvist played 62 games and won 39. That's pretty freaking amazing. If you ask me, he only played 43 games in 2012-2013, which that must have been an injury year for him, with 24 wins. And then in 2013-2014, their Stanley Cup run year, he played 63 games, won 33, and that was probably, when I go back and look at stats of the Rangers and some of their playoff runs, that makes me pretty sad. I mean, seeing that he couldn't hoist the cup then, but it was still promising over the next couple of years that he could. Like, it didn't seem like that was the end for the Rangers, and that was the highest they were ever going to reach in the playoffs till present time now. So then in 2014-15, when they lost in the Eastern Conference Final, and other injuries kind of impacted that year in a sense. He played 46 games, had 30 wins, which is pretty good. And then in 15-16, another loss in the playoffs that year, 65 games, 35 wins, pretty good. 16-17, 57 games played, 31 wins. And then for the first year in a while, they didn't make the playoffs, and that started the rebuild. In 2017-2018, played 63 games and only won 26. And that's where it kind of took a fall off, you could see, starting their rebuild. And in 2018-2019, he won 52 games and a career low, or played in 52 games and a career low 18 wins. And so that was one of the first and only years in his career. Yeah, that was the only one of two at the end of his last 2 years of his career where he had a losing record. And then 2019-20 season, the shortened season, he didn't get much playing time at all. Had 30 games played, 26 of them were started, and he won 10. So, yeah, it's not how he wanted to end his career. He ended with 459 career wins, which is amazing in what was not a complete 15-year career. He, like we said, we had a couple seasons that he kept short a little bit. I'm trying to find his shutouts, and he had 64 career shutouts. And so the most he ever had was 11 shutouts in a season. The least he ever had was 0. And so, yeah, but when we're talking about Hank, of course you think, well, he's probably one of the greatest players to not win a Stanley Cup. Comes to mind like Joe Thornton, which I believe he hasn't won a Stanley Cup yet. And so, yeah, but we're going to switch gears for a second. We're going to talk about the Rangers just in the past couple weeks. They've had good start. They've had good patches in games. You know what I mean? They have. If they really could fix something in the second half of this year, would really to me be playing a full 60. I mean, I haven't seen them play a full 60 all year, except maybe against Tampa when they won 4-0, or against the Blue Jackets when they won 4-0 early in the year in October. But other than that, I mean, it's been like games that have been hard to watch that they've still won. Like you look at the Kings game was a pretty entertaining game, but still they didn't play a full 60. And when you go up 2-0, and I'm going to come out straight ahead and say this, I am not in support of Alexander Georgiev getting starts unless they are starts that he needs to get. Like if they're in situations where Shesterkin can't play, okay, that makes sense. Yes, going into the weekend, they had a road game in Columbus yesterday. They have an 8 o'clock home game against a good team in the Wild today, and a 1 o'clock game on Sunday against the Kraken. Yes, I completely understand how Coach Gallant would put Georgiev in, but it's a different team. You look at everyone's like, well, it's going to come back and bite you when you keep trying to rally back from coming down or falling down in games. Like they were down 2-0 going in, or 4-2 going into the third in Columbus. And yes, that may be true. You will never continuously produce comebacks like that. But Alexander Georgiev really the team doesn't have good chemistry playing with him. And you look at it, comes to mind, I went to the Carolina Hurricanes game they played, which is going to be a week ago from tonight. And it's not that I'm trying to put it on him. It just wasn't. It didn't look good. A lot of the goals didn't look good. And you can blame it on the Rangers not playing as well with him as they do with Shesterkin, but that's just a part of them not having good chemistry with Georgiev. And frankly, you look at the second goal by Boone Jenner yesterday, that's 2 awful turnovers by Fox. Rarely see that, but that's also one Georgiev should stop. And you look at, let me see. I didn't know if I agreed with the first goal for Columbus. Looked like it was kicked in. Nothing Georgiev could have done about that. The second one, I did not see if it was redirected. I think it was. Yeah, I think it was by Boone Jenner. So again, nothing Georgiev can do about that. And then Sean Corrali's tipped goal. That's a little iffy. Maybe one you would want Georgiev to be in a little better position and not as wobbly to make that stop. And then you look at their fourth goal on actual net by Boone Jenner, and that's just one that's got to be stopped. And yes, the Rangers did not finish on chances, but I don't, as a fan, yes, I'm a fan. I'm not an expert. I'm not a coach. I don't feel comfortable with Alexander Georgiev in net. I'm not, even during the Kings game, and they were down 2-1 in the final 10 minutes of the third period, I wasn't losing confidence in a sense. I still believe that, okay, Shesterkin's going to make sure this is not going to turn into 3-1 lead for the Kings. So you're going to need, so it just depends on the Rangers finding the back of the net and sending it to overtime. That's exactly what they did, and then they won. And It's as simple as that. I want to. Obviously, Shesterkin will be in tonight, and he has to be in Sunday. And the Rangers have to start winning those. I want to see him in for the rest of the games until the end of the All-Star break, and they only have 3. And Adam Fox will miss the rest of those. And Igor Shesterkin has to start. He has to start those. And you look, okay, we've played. I don't know, where we were just looking at Henrik Lundqvist's records and how he puts up numbers in the 30s. Igor Shesterkin can clearly do that. Yes, he was affected by injuries. But also, I think Henrik Lundqvist started many back-to-backs in his career. You look at the season, he played 72 games. How many back-to-backs do you think that were on that? So that really sticks in my head. It's kind of really just disappointing. As a game yesterday, they should have won. They should have won that game. And, yeah, it's frustrating. What are you going to do about it? You hope they make something happen against the Wild and the Kraken. You want at least 2 points. You have to win one of those games coming out of the weekend. But you look now, the Rangers played 44 games, and they're in a 3-way tie for first place. And the Pittsburgh Penguins went ahead of the Rangers for the first time this season. And, yeah, that's disappointing, but you got Shesterkin in the net. You've lost Fox, but you just got to pick up where you left off, and you'll be fine against the Wild. And you got to stop Kirill Kaprizov, and we have not played them this year, but I do want to go ahead and give a look at the schedule. We have the Wild tonight at home, then the Kraken at home. Then we have a big home game against the Panthers on Tuesday, February 1st, this coming Tuesday. And that's big. And then the Rangers do not play till February 15th, and that starts a 2-game homestand where they play the Bruins on Tuesday, February 15th, and then the Red Wings on Thursday, February 17th. 3 days later, they head into Ottawa to play the Senators. Then they come home for the Capitals. Then 2 days later, they play the Penguins on the road. And then a day later, they play the Canucks. And those are the 7 games in February. And by looking at those, you want to say you need a win against the Canucks. You need to beat the Senators. You need to beat the Red Wings. And those are 3 of the 7, I would say, have to be locks for you to win. You want to beat the Bruins. You want to beat the Capitals. And then, to me, the Panthers and the Penguins game is the one that are ones you're going to have to put almost a full 60 in if you want to win. But with the Rangers, they're fine right now in conference play. Like I said, me and Joe were talking about it. I don't know what his side on it was, but I just want the Rangers to finish in a top 4 spot. If you finish in a top 4 spot in the East, look, you expect a team to fall out right now. The top 8 in the East is Florida 1, Tampa 2, Carolina 3, Pittsburgh 4, Rangers 5, Toronto 6, Washington 7, Boston 8. And you should imagine one of those top 6 teams to fall out of where they are, in a sense. And not even that, maybe probably a top 4 team. I fully expect either Florida, Tampa, Carolina, Pittsburgh, or the Rangers to really slow down. I expect one of those teams to at least really slow down. We saw it with Washington. Washington is extremely slowed down. They fell off the pace. Now the Rangers are 5 points ahead of them. They both played 44 games. And Washington's hit a bump. Toronto's lost consistency in my sense. But Carolina, Florida, and Pittsburgh have not. Rangers have kept a little consistency, but they're still losing some games that you want them to win, like yesterday. And Tampa stayed consistent up there. So those top 4 ahead of the Rangers have been just so consistent. And that's why they're there. And Boston, frankly, I can't say they're doing better than most people thought, but we'll see where that goes for them. But, yeah, to me, for the Rangers, just staying consistent, and that should lead them places. And to go back to Henrik Lundqvist, we're going to talk about him for a couple more minutes, and then we'll wrap up episode 26. Hank, he reached 3 conference finals in his career. He lost 2 out of the 3. In 2012, they lost in 6 games to the New Jersey Devils, and Rangers fans can very much remember Adam Henrique's goal in Game 6 in overtime. That was disappointing when you go back. That was really disappointing for the Rangers. They had promising hopes that year. And then in 13, I believe they lost in 5 games to the Boston Bruins. And so this starts a consistent run for the Rangers in the playoffs of just making the playoffs every year. So after they lost in the second round of the Bruins. They made a coaching change, and that brought in Alain Vigneault, who has just got fired by the Flyers, I'm thinking like maybe a month ago. And his first season, what a dandy. It was in 2013-14. The Rangers made it all the way to the Stanley Cup final. And we all know how that ended, but it started out with a first round in a 7-game series. They beat the Philadelphia Flyers in 7 games in round 1. Went down 3-1 against the Pittsburgh Penguins, and Rangers won in Pittsburgh in Game 7. So they won round 2 against Pittsburgh in 7 games, moving on the Eastern Conference Final for the second time in 3 years. And they went up quick 2-0 on Montreal, and Montreal went back to New York for Game 3, beat them in overtime. Then the Rangers won Game 4 in overtime, lost Game 5 in Montreal, and won Game 6 1-0, and the Rangers beat Montreal in 6 games, and they were heading to the Stanley Cup final. And frankly, the Rangers had 2-0 leads in both Games 1 and Game 2 of the Stanley Cup final. Lost both of them in overtime, and Justin Williams has his face on that. Game 3, the Rangers lost 3-0. They were down 3-0, and it didn't look promising. But when they won Game 4, they won 2-1 at the Garden, and then Game 5 came. They were up 2-1 late after 2. And that dreadful penalty taken by Matt Zuccarello led to LA's power play goal, and it was tied at 2, and we went all the way into the second overtime. You'd think of Kreider's breakaway chance, but then Alec Martinez finishes that rebound, and that was, I can't say it was surprising the Rangers lost that. I mean, I was not like watching the Rangers like vigorously at the time, but that I could tell that would have been very painful to watch, like watching the Yankees in the playoffs. And then in 2015, they made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Final, lost in 7 games to the Tampa Bay Lightning. In 16, they lost in 5 games in the first round to the Pittsburgh Penguins. In 2017, to end that playoff run, the final year they would make the playoffs, so recent, unless you want to count the play-in, they lost in 6 games in 2 rounds. They lost in the second round in 6 games to the Ottawa Senators, and the Rangers they failed to make the playoffs in 17-18, announcing the rebuild with big moves of McDonough, Miller, Girardi, and people were expecting that's going to be the start. That's going to be the start of the end for Henrik. He might never see it again. 18-19 failed to make the playoffs. 19-20, very promising season, didn't play that much. It was the rise of Igor Shesterkin in January of 2020, and that's when he came alive, and he took New York by storm. And yeah, the Rangers probably would have made the playoffs. They made the play-in, and Henrik Lundqvist, it was best of 5 series. He started the first 2. They lost. I want to say they lost 3-2 in Game 1 and 4-1 or 3-2 in Game 1, 4-1 in Game 2. He didn't start Game 3. They lost 4-1. Shesterkin did. And that was the last we saw of Henrik. He had a brief stay with the Capitals, never played a game due to a heart condition. He had aortic valve surgery, and that ended his career. And it was very sad to see, like, him on social media talking about it, that he'll never put on the mask again. And I was actually – I didn't want to see him play for the Capitals. I was excited to see him on the ice, though. And then that quickly came to an end. But, yeah, and now the Rangers look really promising, and you just hope they stay consistent, and they should make the playoffs, knock on wood. But, yeah, and for my last thing of the day for this episode, I'm going to talk about – and this is what me and Joe were talking about for a little while. Me and Joe were discussing about having an episode of some of the wrongs of the MLB's commissioner office. And it's really, you look at the lockout, which looks like it has a hopeful coming to an end at sometime in the near future, before the season starts, hopefully. And me and Joe were talking about some of the failures of the commissioner's office, and how Rob Manfred, to me recently, they don't bring Ken Rosenthal back because of something he said about Rob Manfred, which is kind of funny because you think something he wrote in The Athletic, you're not going to bring him back to MLB Network. They didn't fire him. They just didn't bring him back. Well, he works for Fox, and he's still going to be writing articles. So you didn't silence his voice there. And to me, it all starts, and I take it personal as a Yankees fan, with the Houston Astros scandal. And it's not even just as a Yankees fan, it's as a baseball fan, as a sports fan. The message Rob Manfred said, and yes, you do need to protect the players, and the Players Association has that right to do so. You should. I mean, I don't know if I necessarily agree, but the players should be protected. I don't know if I agree with not like fining them or having like other punishments for them, but I do agree like protecting the players should be a priority. Even though I don't really like any of the Houston Astros players, obviously, but to me, Rob Manfred really not taking. He could have taken that title away. He could have said as a vacated title. I don't know if giving it to the Dodgers was a sense, but what you're showing, and he could do that, and what you're showing when you don't do that is that cheating's right, and that's the moral you're setting out there is that, all right, these guys, you could use performance enhancing drugs, you can sign steal, you can do this, there won't be any precaution. When frankly, look, I'm not a fan of Alex Rodriguez, but everyone remembers how he was banned from the MLB for a full season for doing steroids. So he's banned for doing steroids when, I mean, let's think about it for a second. How many players in the MLB took steroids in the 90s, 2000s, maybe the 2010s? Think about it yourself. How many players took steroids and he got punished for a full season? Yes, he had a lot of scandal come with it, but he gets punished and banned from the MLB for a full season for taking steroids. Yet the Houston Astros are still allowed to win the World Series title when proven guilty for sign stealing with illegal electronic use for the whole 2017 season and the playoffs and a portion of the 2018 season. And they definitely cheated in 2019. No one wants to prove it. There's plenty of evidence, and no one wants to talk about it anymore. It's just gone, and that's what I feel like COVID gave the Astros a little gift, that they could just get away with it. And that's kind of annoying, but yeah, I mean, what else could Jose Altuve have on his shirt? What else could Josh Reddick have on his chest? Like a wire. We know it's not for an interview. That's an earpiece. Like, so it's just people being dumb. Like, if you think about it in all scenarios, what would he have on his chest? Really, what else would he have on his chest? Would it be confetti? Because it doesn't look like the confetti. And so it's just connecting the dots that pisses me off about that. But really, something you can do about that. But really, it's kind of embarrassing for baseball, I think, in a sense, with how the commissioner's office and the commissioner have made rules in the past, kind of, and just some of the stuff they've said. I mean, Rob Manfred has called the World Series trophy a piece of metal. You look at other sports where the NHL, the Stanley Cup is revered and loved, and it's treasured, and it should be, because the amount of names, the amount of Hall of Famers that have had their names engraved on it, and it should be treasured the way it is, and it should feel great to win it because of the hard effort that goes into it. That should be the same for the World Series trophy, and him making a comment like that shows he doesn't care. He doesn't care, and he might be under a lot of pressure from the owners and stuff, but also at the end of the day, all these people in these arguments have money. They all have money. They're all rich. They all make millions, and they're just ruining it for the fans, and they're also ruining it for the players, and that's what I don't condone, and that's why I love baseball, but I'm losing respect for the MLB and their decision-making in the commissioner's office. But, yeah, to wrap up on that we might do a continue segment on that. That's just kind of a preview of what we might talk about in the future based on how the lockout goes. So, but, yeah, I just want to come on today. I know Joe couldn't make it, so I wanted to come on today and say just a few words about Henrik and how much Rangers fans and I appreciate what he did for the city, and hopefully Igor Shesterkin can match exactly what he did. But I know Hank's not listening to this, but I just want to say thank you and congratulations. You're well-deserved to have your number retired, one of 11 Rangers to have it sent up into the rafters. And just well-deserved. And you saw the message from the players. You look at, on that message, it was Marty San Luis, Cam Talbot, Chris Kreider, Mika Zibanejad, and just everyone praising him for just everything he's done. Even some of the New York Giants, Justin Tuck, Eli Manning on there, just praising his performance and getting to play in New York at the same time as he did with a legend, and that's what he is. And I really hope the Rangers can actually come out and play tonight, because if you remember the last time that the Rangers had a special ceremony in the 18-19 season against the Carolina Hurricanes, it was the celebrating 25 years of the 94 Cup, and they had all the players come, and they lost 3-0. So, I mean, I just hope they don't choke like that tonight. They have Shesterkin in net, so it's not going to be ugly, at least. But, yeah, and we'll go from there. Let's go Rangers. And, yeah, and hopefully me and Joe, hopefully we'll see you this weekend for an episode regarding the NFL playoffs, where I'm just going to go out and give you a little preview for that. I hate the Chiefs. Really angered by the NFL's overtime rule. Really sad for the Bills. I thought they deserved it. I thought they were the better team. Blah, blah, blah. You can talk about all the aspects, all the chokes, whatever. And you can feed it to us in the comment section. But hopefully we will see you this weekend. Thanks for tuning in for episode 26. See you guys, and let's go Rangers.